Well, hi, Shannon.
Hi, Lauren.
Welcome to Open Doors.
Thanks, everybody. Welcome. We're here.
What are
Like
we talking about
episode.
today?
Well, I think we're going to talk about asking for help, the art of asking for help,
I love that
um,
topic.
which honestly could probably be like 7 different episodes given the context in which you end up asking for help.
Yeah.
Um, but I've had some interesting both requests for help as of
Okay.
late,
Mm-hmm.
um, business, personal, right? Uh, Sometimes the 2 get conflated in the business that we work in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And also I'm finding myself in my own place of asking for help. So
Okay.
it's really sort of an interesting thing. So I thought it would be fun to tackle, and
I love it.
you love it. So let's do it.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, I guess first and foremost is the idea of asking for help. Is that something that is hmm, like do you have a relationship to that? At some point, did that feel weird to you?
Oh, yeah.
And still
Like, for
today may.
most of
Yeah.
my life, I think I had a couple of what I would say really, like, key and critical turning points around asking for help, but I did not used to ask for help. The way that I grew up not asking for help, but hoping for help, right?
Mm.
Maybe. Um, Sometimes not recognizing maybe when I needed help, but
Mhm.
because in some of my survival skills and all the things, I was a bit of a pleaser. By a bit, I mean a lot. So
Mhm.
people would help me.
Yeah.
And so the help then got intertwined with, you know, validation, earning praise, being worthy, like all that kind of good stuff. So I would
Oh,
say it
yeah.
was not always part of my repertoire.
Mhm.
Um, but I learned what that meant to receive it and ask
Yeah.
for it.
And
But
how
I
to
also
get it.
and how to get it. But then I also learned over time when like I said, there's some sort of key moments, pivotal moments, I would say, when I did not um, ask for help and people showed up. And then I realized, oh, people actually do want to help.
Mm.
And it's okay to ask for help. So
Right.
it's sort of interesting. I don't know. How about you?
Yeah. Well, I we talk about this every week. We all are these complicated beings, and truly we're all what 8-year-olds walking around in grown-up sized bodies. And so you learn these tactics when you're young, and I think getting help or receiving help, you learn how to get it from your family unit or from the
Yeah.
people in your life, the relationships that you have when you're, kind of like 8 through 25, you learn how to get
Yeah.
help. And for me, a lot of that sometimes would be help and attention got conflated.
Yeah.
And um and it almost became a way to getting help almost became a way to feel loved. It was like,
Yeah.
okay, if I'm helped, I'm loved.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. So true.
and now I think I have a different relationship to getting or wanting help. Y Yeah, now I think asking for help feels way more uncomfortable to me because I'm not trying to get it for some sort of validation. I had to do an exercise yesterday where my coach made me not made me, I mean, obviously, I signed up for this, but
Suggested.
the ask was to put a request on LinkedIn. So say something that you want and then put it on LinkedIn and ask for help,
Yeah.
and I almost threw up.
Yeah. I get that. What happened? What'd you ask for?
I
People want to
asked
know, Lauren.
Yeah, I mean, I sort of asked for 2 things. I asked "Hey, I have another, I am looking for one more client, basically. I have capacity to take on one more client, and I'm looking for somebody who's sort of in the tech world that wants to tell their story." And then secondly, I said I wanna be on a podcast guest on 3 podcasts before the end of the year that are
Huh?
not my own.
Uh-huh.
And it's like to me, that felt like so cringy and I felt so gross. It took me like an hour and a half. And like when I hit send, I had to like close my eyes and send it and just like run away from my computer? But like to everybody else, it was probably fine? But to
Yeah.
you, it just feels crazy. And then people start to reach out to you
Sure.
and offer help. And you're like, oh shit. So there's
Look, it
like,
works.
yeah, exactly. So there was like the help of a community, then there's the help of like actually like the people that are closest to you. And like, how do
Yeah.
you think about different areas where you can ask for and give help?
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah.
would really also struggle with that.
Yeah.
I think it's incredible that you did that.
Dude, you should honestly just do it as like a test
A
because it's,
test for myself.
yeah. And people listening, like try it. Like try to think of a thing that you want in the next 6 months and ask people for help. And it just reveals some deep insecurity.
Well, I actually would say there's a difference between asking for help at scale, right? Like you're asking anyone you've ever connected with in the last however many years for help, right? At scale,
Uh-huh.
right? So there's a difference. And then there's a difference in like the intimacy of like sending a text to a friend and being like, hey, am experiencing this, or I would like, I'm trying to work on this or whatever. Can you help? Would you mind
Uh-huh.
helping me? Like that's
Uh-huh.
different. I'd say now that is a much more comfortable place for me
Okay.
to ask for help, right? Because
Okay.
also I believe in giving help. So
So
I
you
think
would call up a friend, no problem, and say, "I need your help. Can you come over tonight? I need to talk," or whatever.
yeah, if I really needed that, right? If I really, what are you doing? Would you mind coming over? If I don't need it, then I'm much more clear too, I think, on when I need help and when I need
Mhm.
space and like what my own
Mm.
particular process is in terms of how
Mhm.
I process things. Like
Mhm.
sometimes I don't want to help. I just want to be. I
Mhm.
appreciate when people offer me advice or help or whatever, but I don't necessarily need to seek it out.
Mhm.
Uh, and then the other part would be then there are times where I'm like, I do need help, right? Like I need help in crafting, you know, some thoughts, or I need help in crafting, building out an idea or whatever, right? Like, and I think, but because I'm willing to offer help and I get asked for help a lot, right? Professionally, I get asked for help a lot. And personally, I get asked for help and enjoy helping where I can,
Mhm.
which
What
I
is
ask for other
the
people.
well, I was gonna ask, like, is there ever a line that's crossed where you're like, "I can't believe this person is asking me for help?" Or do you feel
Oh,
like
I
it's
have the
most
wildest experience, Lauren. Like, speaking of like, there's a way to do it and there's a way not to do it. I also
Okay.
feel very strongly about this as it relates to sales and the current trajectory of way people sell.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
so, I was in sales for a long time. We're all in sales in some way, right? We're selling ourselves, we're selling, whatever. We're selling ideas, you're selling, philosophy, whatever it is, right?
Mhm.
Every person on the planet is in sales in some way, shape, or form at all times.
Yep.
However, it doesn't mean there's a difference between being like selling and selling and not being able to be like who you are and authentically in your own skin and whatever, right? But like ultimately if you're, wanting to connect with someone, there's a degree of like, oh, I want to have a connection with you. So let's talk about something that we would both be interested in or,
Mhm.
something like that, right? Like
Mhm.
I'm not saying that's selling. That's okay. It's a fine line to sort of wrap your head around. But that
Mhm.
point is, I was in the business of selling goods and services for a very long time.
Right.
And when you sell goods and services, right, the cool thing is like anything, right? Like how can you add value? And I think there's a lot of focus on extracting a value now. Like how can you help me?
Mm.
And this uh level of connectivity that we have through like a LinkedIn, for example, gives this sense of permission to do things that would have been normally outside the realm of like conception of like that seems like invasion, not a invitation. So
Okay.
two things happened, and I'm sure these are happening to a lot of people. 2 things that happened is, 1, I got this inbox in mail from somebody, who was a I mean, it has part of the story. So, it was a woman,
Mhm.
and it was like a Sunday or something, like, evening, and for whatever reason, I happened to be looking at my phone very, quickly and saw it, and I was like, "Oh, I wonder what this is." And I couldn't I didn't know the woman's name, I didn't whatever. And it was this note that said, you know, um, "I'm not a stalker. I have reached out to you a few times in the last several years, no response. Um, I, was seeking help in, asking for time," which by the way, I didn't know this woman. It was one of those like, "We're connected, but to this person on LinkedIn." I'm like, that is literally like, I accidentally hit one time, like, allow access to all contacts, in 2010. And now I have, thousands of people that I don't know, or don't, have a relationship with. But it doesn't mean that, like,
Mhm.
I'm not I still connect with people where I'm like, "Oh, that seems interesting," or "They seem interesting," or
Mhm.
whatever.
Mhm.
So, anyway, it's this long email that's basically like, I don't support women and how like, literally, it was going off on me, and I was like, what is happening?" So, I wrote back, and I was like, I scroll off, and I'm like, the last time I heard from this person was in 2017 or 2018.
That's weird.
It was wild. So I was like,
That's
okay,
weird.
so 8 years ago, they last reached out to me. And so I wrote back and I was like, "Listen, I'm sorry if you felt like I was ignoring you. First of all, I get lost in inboxes all the time." I said, "But you have no context for what was happening in my life. We don't know each other. And I think making the assumption, first of all, that I'm ignoring you, but also that, I'm in somehow obligated to respond, and then saying that if the point is to shame me and say that I don't support women, I have lots of women friends and I do support, and I am a champion of women." I said, and so I said, "I don't know what your hope was in terms of like a response to this email, but like, or this note, but like, I said, you have my attention now, but I don't appreciate this."
Yeah.
So it was funny because in the past, I might have just also let that go, but I was like, the
Yeah.
I said, so if you're asking me for my help, this is not the way to ask me for my help.
No. No.
And unnecessary.
Also, it seems like in that instance, it's like it seems like you made up a story and not you. This person made up a story in her head, and you're like, "I had nothing to do with your story." Like that, like
That was up to
you
you.
that was your
Yeah.
story.
And then she responded and just said, "Thank you for your response." And then she waited and then she came back again and was like, "It's been so hard and this is what's happening with jobs." And I was like, "Listen, I know it's hard out there. I wish you all the best. Like, I'm sorry that, this has been such a struggle." But it was super weird. And then just yesterday, right? The phone rings and I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna pick it up." And it's, someone in LA. So I was like, "Okay, well, maybe it's somebody I need
Like a
to
kid's school or
all the
something.
kids,
Yeah.
camp,
Yeah.
whatever. I don't know, new parents that I don't know yet,
Right.
from moving." And it's a guy who's, on a tech platform who's like, "Hey, Shannon, I just want to see, I want to get 15 minutes on your calendar in the next couple of days." And I'm like, "What, with an offer to save the company money." And I'm like, "But I don't know you. Like, and I don't know you're calling
Yeah.
my cell phone." I was like, "I would prefer if you'd send me an email, but actually I don't prefer because he didn't
Yeah.
ask me or you didn't add anything to the conversation." So, something like this would like, "Hey, here's an article about X, Y, and Z. This could be really interesting. I see that you talk about this a lot. Maybe there's something there. You know, we do this. Would love to show you sometime." Like, that's a different approach. And so I think it's just very interesting where it's almost like the art of asking for help is like a little bit going by the wayside.
Well, I think what you're you're pointing out is it's this intimacy that somebody's assuming a level of intimacy with you that they haven't yet earned the right to. And so you're thinking, I don't know you. I've never met you. You're calling me on my phone. I thought it could be my kid's school or camp or
Yeah,
whatever. And you've just caught me off guard. And now to say, I have this product, it's like you have skipped the necessary steps to be at the level where you can make an ask of me. So
yeah,
I guess it's like if you're going to ask for help with somebody, you have to be at a level of intimacy that matches the ask, you know?
yeah, yeah,
Because if not, you're just it seems transactional. It
yeah.
feels weird.
It feels weird. Or, I think it's okay also, I you know, so I'd say it's nuanced, right? But I think it's okay to also ask for help from people you don't know, right? Like,
Mhm.
certainly there are times, and I said to this woman, I'm like, listen, I have also reached out to people on LinkedIn before and not heard back from them. And I don't assume it's because they don't like me or don't want to help me or aren't interested. I just assume that this may not work for them right now, or this isn't something they are, or maybe they aren't interested. And like, that's okay. It's
Sure.
not,
Or maybe they're busy or maybe they
yeah, of course,
whatever,
or they never
right?
saw it, or there's a million
Right.
things, a million reasons
Right.
why to not connect with someone you don't know. Um, but I've
Yeah.
also, and the other part is like I hired one of my assistants when I was at Story Lab off a LinkedIn note that she sent me because it was so lovely and so nice, and she just asked for some time to, she was trying to, make her way in the industry or whatever, and I was like, yeah, of course, I'll have a chat, and then I ended up hiring her, and she was one of my assistants.
Right. But I mean, I think the difference is like she went about it in a way that like it showed some interest in you. It showed some a request for like she was willing to be vulnerable. And then it
Yeah,
ended up that like you actually ended up hiring her, but it's not like she called you out of the blue and said, "Hey, give me a job." That would have been
yeah,
weird, you know?
yeah,
So it's almost like in these instances, people have to understand the level of what like where you can and can't make an
yeah.
ask.
Do you think
I
we're
don't know.
under just a tremendous amount of like pressure as it relates to time, you know, time, maybe money, these things like we're all under time pressure because you can't, it's whatever that stat was. Remember they were talking about like every 2 minutes you're interrupted by a notification on your phone. That doesn't include like all the other alerts and everything else, right? So in theory, like every 10 seconds you could be interrupted by something. So we all just feel a little more compressed, which means like the things we need to get done, we need to get done right now.
Mm.
And then if you're in a revenue generating position, like you need to get that done because there's lot, the targets are hit, they're big. You only get it, you only feel like you have a certain amount of time. And then maybe technology is accelerating that through like services that are automated sales services. So like, the drip process on in sales tools,
LinkedIn. Mhm.
or whatever
Yeah.
it is, right? And I wonder if that has also contributed to like we've lost some of the art of because essentially if you're calling someone to sell them something, you're asking for help.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe. I mean, maybe it's a thing of where we're all just too busy and we've lost a little bit of the art of the human connection. That could be,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
you used to have to build a relationship in IRL and then you'd see somebody, at work and then you'd develop a conversation and then and then you could make, ask them for help over time. So yeah, I think that could be true.
it's interesting. I don't know. I think so in terms of like when you think about asking someone for help,
Mhm.
like intimately,
Okay.
what is it? Because a lot of people really struggle with this, right? A lot of people
Yeah.
really are just like, it's way easier to do it myself, or
Yes.
I don't think anyone wants to help me. I don't wanna be a burden to anybody, which
And you
I've
don't
gone
want to
through
look
all of those parts of this thing, so I'm curious, like, how you think about it.
Yeah, and you don't wanna look weak, and you don't wanna look
Yeah,
foolish, and you don't want anyone to think that you're, like, not on top of your game.
yeah,
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I guess there's, like, different tiers. So it's, like, the tier of the people that you're most willing to ask for help. I was walking down the street yesterday, and this girl was, like, hysterical crying, walking on the phone behind me,
oh,
talking to her mom
so
because she had gotten
sad.
fired. And she's like, "They fired me. I can't do this. I can't do this without you." I mean, my
Oh,
heart went out to her because, like, we've all
so
had those
sad.
moments where you
Yeah.
feel like your world is crashing down around you. And that I feel like is like that's your like tier 1 inner circle where you're like, I don't know what to do. Can you rescue me?"
Yeah.
And that's like the call you make to like your closest person or
Yeah.
people,
Yeah. Totally.
It's almost like instinctual. It's like something happened, I have to call my mom, or something happened, I
Yeah.
have to call.
Yeah. Yeah. There's that.
So I think that I feel like I'm more I can do.
Yeah.
I can do that. I
No
can call my
problem. Yeah.
sisters, I can call my mom, I can call my husband. I think where I struggle sometimes is in the tier 2s, like
Yeah.
my friends that I'm close with, but like you and then really in the tier 3s. So that would be like the people that you're like for our industry, the people that we're friends with that we see at big events or things like that,
Yeah.
but they're not you're not going to call them up on like a regular Tuesday and
Yeah.
shoot the shit.
Yeah.
And that's I think where I struggle sometimes in those 2 tiers to like look vulnerable or look weak or look like I'm not enough or
Yeah.
do you know what
Yeah.
I mean?
I do. I do. Yeah. Well, because I think part of the part of the role is confidence,
Yeah.
right? Part of the perception is reality is confidence.
Yeah.
And so your level of confidence is somebody said to me, or if you guys might have shared this before, but like a boss, my graduate internship boss probably said the best thing ever. Thank God, because I think it helps me a lot. Um, which is right, it's slightly different bent on this, but it's like, don't like it's to take it a step further. It's like, don't confuse kindness with weakness and don't
Mm.
confuse weakness with confidence.
Mm.
Right? Because I think sometimes we can all feel a little weak. We can all feel a little, tired, burnt out, need
Mm.
support, like, need help of different kinds, right? And
Mhm.
so the ability to reach out to people who, maybe you don't know super well, but I think this is sort of goes back to a lot of the other episodes we've had, which is like, also, if you are yourself and you are kind and generous, with your time or your energy or your support or your whatever it is, um, that will come back. People remember that, and it doesn't have to be a quid pro quo. It doesn't mean like, oh, I'm nice to you because someday I know you might need you to be nice to me. Like that's not what this is, right? But I think in the spectrum of like you shown up consistently in the same way for a very long time. And, people will help,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it is
I mean,
hard to ask. It is hard to ask. I think also there's a lot of people, and at least in our business, right now, a lot of people are asking, like, there's a lot of people are a little fearful right now of like everything going
mm.
on.
Do you think it's like the AI thing? And I don't know if I'm going to have a job in 5 years or what we're all going to be doing. Like, do you think that that is causing these like undercurrents of nerves?
I think, yeah, probably. I mean, some of that, I think for sure, right? Like, I think it's hard to be, especially different levels of, employment and
Mm-hmm.
I think that also comes through in like, age and a bunch of other
Mm-hmm.
things, right? Like, certain earning years and families to take care of and sandwich generations and,
Mm.
AI and amount of jobs available, companies under pressure. Like there's just like
Oh
so
yeah.
many things, right? Like,
Yeah. And there's I
um,
can't one of my teachers, his name is Jack Cornfield, and he says that the people that are closest to being spiritually free are children and old people
yeah,
because they're the closest to like birth and death.
yeah,
And the people that are the least spiritually free are like middle-aged people with mortgages.
totally.
Cause yeah,
Cause
you got
yeah,
you got a lot of obligations and that doesn't leave you a lot of space for like feeling creative,
yeah,
feeling free, feeling it's a lot of it's a pressure and this nervousness. And like you said, a
yeah,
sandwich generation. You've got to take care of aging parents and young kids and
yeah,
career.
yeah. I think when you're in that, right, it's like inertia,
Mm,
right? There is that. And life doesn't get less expensive, right? Like things don't get less expensive. rent doesn't get less expensive, right? Like nothing or mortgages or school or, food, eggs, like
Mhm.
whatever. Nothing's getting less expensive. Everything's getting more expensive. And so, yeah, I just feel like people are a little bit in a interesting thing, which to some degree, maybe we all need help then. We all need a little helping hand because whether that's emotionally, spiritually, like financially, professionally, like there's a lot that people are shouldering.
Yeah, I think that's true. Yeah, I think that's true, and if you look at over human history, we evolved in communities and, like, starting with hunter-gatherer tribes, and then, and your community you could lean on. So if you were
Yeah.
sick or you were whatever, you had the elders of the community, you had people had different jobs, people had different and you could, like that thing, "It takes a village," it was like that. And then when we went into like an agrarian society where we started owning land, you would have these small villages and the
Yeah.
villages would take care of each other. And now we live in this world where we don't have that same, like people don't go to church anymore and they don't have that same community in the same way that they once did. And so
Mhm.
you're like a little bit more isolated. I was thinking about this with a lot of my friends with like having kids. It's like you used to have people you could rely on when you have kids. If you don't have family around, like it's kind of like on you. You don't
Yeah.
you're it's y you don't have that community love like, that community thing that you used to have. My mom used to drop us off at the neighbor's house
Yeah.
almost every day after
Yeah.
school, and I
Yeah.
just don't we like, certainly not in New York, and I don't know about LA, but, like, that's just not as, like, common today.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting. I do find that, I think what that happened also like during COVID, right? A lot of people moved
Mhm.
back to be near their families, especially
Mhm.
a lot of people that had children because
Yeah.
they were like, we can't do this all by ourselves. Like, we need
Yeah.
to feed our people.
Right.
And, it's interesting. Like, it's like, again, back to kind of like that tier one, tier two, tier three, like how you start to think about community, or tier 4, right? The outer circle. Think about what's happening in like big platforms like Reddit, right? Like community is incredibly important, but people are finding their communities digitally, not necessarily in person, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
And then you've got kind of that inner community. And it's funny, even for us, like we have a very close inner community, but like, we have special circumstances of having like Emma, so like
Yeah.
if we want to take our kids on a trip somehow, and both of us would want to be on at the same time. We don't have, I called like both of my parents to see at some point if they could come down and, but they're not married, right? So it was like, hey, could one of you come down so I can take me on this trip? Because Quint's going to go with Scott somewhere. And, you know, n- our au pair can only work with Emma for a certain number of hours. And it's a lot to ask her to stay with her full time, just for several days. And, my both of my parents live in Oregon, neither of them can come. And it's like, well, and my dad's like, well, do you have anyone else? And I was like, not really.
Yeah.
Not really. I mean, not that can come stay. And not, they don't have to do anything. They just need to stay overnight and kind of be here so that there's someone to sleep in the house. And then meetings like, in the backyard in the ADU kind of thing. But like, it was very interesting to sort of think. And so I said this to Scott last night, our little one's birthday last night, but she turned 12, which is why.
Aw, happy birthday.
Yeah, I think. And I said to him, I'm like, we really need to relook at our trust for Emma,
Mhm. Mm.
right? Because our inner circle, which is then going to be a big ask for help, right? Like, and
Mhm.
that is uncomfortable
Yeah.
too,
Yeah.
So it's sort of
Yeah.
like how, who, because we have to have like a tiered system of like who would take her so that like the state doesn't take her, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Her brother and sister aren't responsible for her per se
Right.
in that way. So, it's really interesting. Like, some of these big asks for help that are kind of occurring in my personal life. And I'm like, whoa, asking for help is still hard, even when you think you kind of like got it wired a little bit, where you're like, yeah,
Mm.
hey, asking for help. And I'm like, well, maybe that's just about certain things that,
Right, of course.
you know,
Yeah.
it's really
Yeah.
interesting.
That
So,
is interesting. How do you feel about it when it's a do you feel better about it when it's like a tier 3 ask or t you know what I mean? Like, is it
Yeah.
if you're more distant, do you feel like it's easier to ask?
Yeah, I almost feel, like, more comfortable now, like, something professionally, I feel like I'm
Mhm.
like, "No problem." Like, her
Okay.
I mean, I'm not saying, like it's also because I don't necessarily have expectations of people that they have to help me,
Yeah.
right? So, like, there's a
Mhm.
difference between asking and having expectations of receiving,
Mhm.
right? So, I think that's the other part where it's like, it never hurts to ask. The worst someone can say is no. Like,
Right.
that's okay, right? I think for, in this circumstance, like someone saying no is like has pretty significant like feels attached to it, right? Because you're just like,
Yeah.
what does that look like? What do we mean? What do we need to do for that? But like
Yeah.
and maybe that's just like my whole life perspective, which is like, this is a crisis. This is not a crisis, right? Like I can figure this out. Like, and that may have me look, in a professional situation, it may just be being like be different, have a different kind of resourcefulness. Think about scaling the message. Think about other things I could do that could help solve this problem.
Mhm.
That isn't so isn't dependent on a certain set of circumstances or people or whatever. So I think that's I do think there's like a lot of I've sort of nested asking for help in the ability to have confidence and be courageous, right? And
Yeah.
so it's like, take the breath, ask the words, take the breath, close your eyes, hit send on
Hit
the
send.
hit post on
Yeah.
the keyboard and see what
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah. I never thought of this, but until you said it, but, you know, raising kids is like their only help, right? You're the provider, you're the sole help that they get, and then they grow, and then they don't need your help anymore. And what you were just talking about, Emma, it just made me realize, like, you will be her help forever. And that's a different, that must be really tough.
It's a different level of like
It's
life
a different level.
responsibility, right? Like
Yeah, absolutely.
as always it is something that we will always have, you know, people always talk about our family and they're like, "Oh, you guys are so like, how do you guys do that? You're divorced, but you guys all get along so well and, whatever." And it's like, well, we have a common purpose,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Pretty strong common purpose. So,
Mhm.
um, but yeah, I mean, sometimes it's, when in the context of this conversation and what we were talking about, like sometimes it is a lot to like, internalize and not feel overwhelmed
Mhm.
by
Yeah.
be like, okay, like, what are we going to do? What do we need to do? What is the plan? We have to make the plan, right?
Mhm.
That's like, it's not like you're going to be like, hey, this will solve itself or figure itself out. It's like, no. And it's same for people, that have aging parents. I mean, but eventually, right? Like Emma will live the same amount of time as you or me or anybody else.
Yeah. Yep.
So, and we will, hopefully, she will outlast us, which means like
Right.
that's a level of responsibility to be thinking about, which is like scary and like a little like, oh gosh, how,
Yeah.
where's the book that they hand you when this happens? And it's like, oh, here's how this works.
Mm.
No book, no
Yeah,
help
and
or guide.
I can understand why when you were blogging and creating your online community, why that was so important because you to find people that had a shared experience, I'm sure is very comforting to
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. It was. And it was interesting. Like, I think at the time, what's kind of interesting in the spirit of asking for help, that was like help for me because it was more about connecting around the feelings that I was having, like whether it was isolation or feeling different than everybody. That's also a weird emotion to navigate, right? Like other people are like, "Yeah, we're going to Europe for the summer." And I'm like, "Wow, that would be so fun. We could never do that."
Mhm.
You know?
Mhm.
And like
Mhm.
things like that. Like our whole family will not go on a trip because it's
Right.
too hard, right?
Right.
So
Yep.
like there were there's like, I started learning about that, like, when I was, going through all this where I felt different than everybody, and that was, like, a really difficult emotion to process all the time,
I'm
right?
sure.
And
Yeah.
so I it was really about And so when at that time, I also did not wanna relate to all these parents as well, because for me, that was, like, extra overwhelming. I was like, "Well,
Yeah.
okay, you've got all these issues. I got all these issues, like, we have all these issues together, like, that's a lot."
Yeah.
And now what's interesting is, like, coming back to the community a little bit more and finding my way back because I need to help. It's like, I also need to understand, like, how people have done this before me and how they think about
Mhm.
it,
Yeah.
and so that's it, like, this is, like it's like life is a journey and a process, so but yeah, it was interesting, like, I didn't really want to ask for help then. I just
Mhm.
wanted to write about my experience and then finding, community and solidarity and, like, someone else might be having the same issue with their parent or, a same feeling,
Yeah.
right? Someone's sick,
Yeah.
something's happening, um, and then now I'm like, "Oh, no, the specificity around the experience is actually really, really important." And so that's actually
Yeah.
an area of life where I do need help now because I'm like, I
Yeah.
don't really know what we're supposed to do next.
Mm.
And I'm looking at,
Mhm.
I'm doing the research and I'm a resourceful human and all the things,
Mhm.
but yeah.
Mhm.
And so now I'm
Yeah.
starting to ask for help too, to be like, "Hey, do you know about this?" Or "What can I think about?" Or "How should this
Mhm.
work?" Or, finding new caregivers. It's a whole process. And very interesting.
Yeah. It's like your second job, basically.
Yeah.
Or I guess it's your first job,
My first job.
but yeah.
My first
Yeah.
job. So, yeah, so it's
Um,
a really interesting
how do
concept.
you like when you think about people asking you for help, like how do you have like a um sort of like yes or no, or like this is an imposition that I don't feel comfortable with, or I can't do this right now? Like do you sometimes have to set boundaries, or are you, how do you think about being on the receiving end?
You know, I it's sort of like if it's based on, like, level of closeness to me, right? Sphere of influence, which is, the people that are closest to me can send me a text or ask and say, "Hey, can you help me with this?" And it may not be that I can help them in exactly the way they want to be helped in that moment. So
Mhm.
I will then respond with a, "Hey, if you can get it to me like this, or, can I call you later?" Or, whatever, because it doesn't work for me, right? Like, I feel overwhelmed in this moment, but I can't help you. But if it's, like, really serious and, like, drop everything, I'll be right there, like,
Mhm. Mhm.
depending on, like, where, obviously what's happening with me in my own life, if I'm with my kids or, whatever. But for the most part, it's sort of like if a friend asks me for help, and it doesn't matter what the help they need is about,
Mhm.
right? Like, if they are willing to ask for it, I'm willing to give it. Um, I would say, like, and it kinda goes out from there, but, like, I do we talked about this with Maha, like, if I can be of service and help someone, they may have to ask me a couple of times, because if you're, like, on the extra outer layer of the service piece of it, then, yeah, you might have to wait because there's, like, lots
Mhm.
of people that want help in between, or you might have to remind me. And it doesn't mean that I don't wanna do it, it just means that, like, or I will have to set up and say, "Listen, this isn't something I can really help you with right now because it doesn't make sense for these reasons." Right? But
Mhm.
it's sort of, that also depends on the context of the ask, right? Like,
Mhm.
a lot of
Mhm.
people ask for help. "Can you get me into these people? Can you talk to the Indian?
Mhm.
Can you get me in front of this? Can you?" And
Mhm.
there's a whole range of reasons why that may or may not make sense. But, like,
Mhm.
if a friend, friend of a friend, like, someone will be like, "Hey, can you talk to so and so?"
Mhm.
So I'm like, "Yes, I can talk to them, but I can't talk to them for, like, a month because I don't
Yeah.
have the bandwidth right
Time.
now, and there's lots
Yeah.
of, inbound or
Yeah.
whatever."
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, that makes
yeah.
sense.
How do you do it? Because I know you probably go
Well,
through
it's
the same.
interesting because since I started my own business, I I almost have to feel out what the asks are that come in because, for example, one of the things that a lot of people have been asking for my help on is, like, how do they think about, um their, like how they should be using social media, how they should be using LinkedIn, things like that. And
Oh,
I've gotten
yeah.
so many asks now that I'm like, oh, well, maybe I should do a guide or maybe I should do a monthly class, or maybe I should
Yeah.
do a I don't know. But like so it's interesting now to like it's almost like data points. It's like, okay, people need help with this, this, and this, and they're coming to me for and I even went to you this week and a couple of my other
Yeah.
close friends and asked for help and said, hey, what do you usually come to me for? Just so I
Yeah.
can start to get a sense of like, where can I be helpful?
Yeah.
So anyway, that piece is interesting just to get data points on like, where people in my life, people need help.
Yeah.
And then when I think like I'm super willing to help people, like you said, friend of friend. If somebody's like, hey, can you connect with me? Yes, always.
Yeah.
Um, Also, you never know what is going like what could lead to something else, you just never
Yeah.
know. Like maybe you help somebody out here and it's like kind of the karma thing. Like you help somebody out and you don't expect
Yeah.
anything. And then 2 years later, they're sitting in the room where you're going for a job interview. It's just, it's like putting good out into the world within the limits of like, so that you're not like taxing yourself too much.
Yeah, I think it's like you get what you give, right? Like you give
Yeah.
good energy, you get it back, you can be generous, that
Yeah.
comes back. Um, I think it's just a matter of like a lot of people will, like I grew up probably with, or not probably. I grew up like very serious like codependent tendencies. So
Yep.
like, I would give help um to the degree that I would then burn myself out and then resent all the help I had given,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
That's
and
very typical Enneagram too.
I know, would not tell anybody, and then I would just be mad about it.
Uh-huh.
Uh, or not even mad, it wouldn't be until I was kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, I didn't even know
Yeah.
it until I was just like, "Oh," like, how did you not get there before I did?"
Mm-hmm.
So, um I think I'm much more aware of that now too, which is to be able to say, like, "I don't think I can do that right now," or "I'd love to help you, but, really this is kind of what's going on," either contextually in terms of what you're asking for or, if I can do it, if I'm best suited to do it. Like, sometimes I've been like, "I'm just not really the right person to help you with that."
Mm-hmm.
But if I know somebody or I can help you find someone else, I'm happy to, like, throw out a few messages to try and figure out, like, who might be able to help you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, I think there is a level of I used to have a really confusing relationship with what it meant to be of service.
Mm.
Because that's not always being helpful either. You're just
Right.
anticipating other people's needs all the time,
Right.
but you see
Right.
yourself as being helpful.
Yes. And it's sometimes it's a little bit of a control thing because it's like, well, I'm helping you. You should be acting the way I expect you to.
Yeah.
It's like, well, if are you helping me because you want me to act a certain way? Or are you helping? You know what I mean? So it's
Yeah, that
like
can definitely happen.
for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's interesting, like, I didn't really exercise my help that I didn't think I felt worthy enough to do that, to be honest,
Mhm. Mhm.
right? Like, I don't think I had that level of, um of self-worth where I
Mhm.
thought that that's how I thought about it. I just thought about it as, like, if I do this, it'll just be easier.
Yeah.
Like, it'll be easier because, you'll be happier or you'll
Mhm.
be easier for me to, like and if I do, eventually, if I do want or need something, I can ask you, and then, you know, you'll feel better about my request, and therefore, it will be easier.
Mhm.
Um, but not to control because I think I felt like a lack of control over
Right.
people, right? Like, I was more
Right.
really felt more at the mercy of, like, not by not doing that good by not being that helpful, I wasn't then worthy or hadn't earned, the love, respect,
Mhm.
solidarity or whatever you wanna
Yeah.
call it. So my relationship with help was very confusing, I think, for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah, I think a lot of
There's a quote that I love from Jay Shetty where he talks about like we weren't meant to do this alone, and
yeah,
it just reminds me back to the village thing. It's like, yeah, we weren't meant to do this alone. It's okay to ask for help.
yeah, yeah. I think about that stuff too. Like, it's funny, I always use Maya Angelou's quote, which is like, "People won't remember what you said or what you've done, but how you made them feel." And I think, you know, um, I do think that's true, right? So, like,
Hmm.
where you can, if a help request is usually related to like a feeling, 'cause you know someone's having a hard time or they're struggling or they need, something,
Mhm.
that turns into a very, like, a very, easy way to show up, just to be like, "How
Mhm.
can I help you feel better?"
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Whatever
Yeah.
that looks like. I
And
know there's some
sometimes
people are
one thing
generous.
for me that I've had to learn is, like, you don't have like, sometimes just listening and being there and, like, being a place that someone can come up for air is enough,
Mhm.
you don't have help doesn't have to look like telling them what to do or giving them advice. Sometimes it's just, like, listening, so that
Yeah.
also took me a while to
Well,
learn.
me too, man. I was like the I'd be like, "Okay, well, here's how you're gonna solve your
Here's how
problem."
we're gonna do it
Yeah.
together.
Yeah, we got this for you. Um, yeah, I actually have a girlfriend who's really good at this, and she'll be like, and you know her, but, like, she's, like, really one of my dear friends, and she'll be like, and we started doing this, I think, during COVID because we would talk, like, every single day, and, I was single and she was single, so we were talking about boys, and we were talking about all the things, or men, whatever you wanna call them, and we would men who act like boys, whatever. Um, we, uh, we were talking about it, we'd, like, start someone would start talking, and then they'd be like, "Well, do you want advice or do you want me to just listen? Like,
Right.
what do we need? What does
Right.
today call for?"
Right. Yeah, I love that. That's a good question, I think, when you're giving advice or being asked for it.
Yeah, or if you know your tendency is to give it, and then you can be like, "Wait, wait, wait.
Yeah,
Maybe
yes. Let me ask you here
I'll
first.
just wait."
Do you
Um,
have an open door for this week?
um, I do have an open door this week. You know what? My open door for this week, I'm really excited, um, is I am going on a trip with my family.
Nice.
And I'm going to Alaska, which I have always
That's
wanted to
awesome.
go. And, Greg, my boyfriend, is coming, so he's gonna meet my
Cool.
dad for the first time, which is a big deal.
That's awesome.
And so, yeah, it's gonna be I'm really excited about it, and we've been
Good.
sort of talking about doing this for several years. My dad had a stroke, so we couldn't go, and now he's better, and so we're gonna go, and I'm
That's
really
awesome.
excited about it. So,
That's
how
great.
about
That's
you?
gonna be amazing.
Yeah.
I guess I am let's see, what is my open door? I guess I have a couple. Um, I've been just sort of sitting on things lately, which has been good. Like sometimes I have this tendency to like get an idea and then like have to run to start working on it. And I've been sitting with things and letting them be. So I think my open door right now is just like letting things unfold as they should, and that feels really
Mhm.
good.
Trust the process,
Yes.
as someone wise told me.
Yep.
Um, well, good for you. Yeah, isn't that your, like,
Thanks.
Enneagram that you, like, get excited and then you, like,
hmm
run off and do
Yeah.
them?
Yeah.
So now you're, like, working through
Working through it. Yeah.
you're not
It's called like adherence to the holy plan. So like my Enneagram number always is making plans, plans, plans because you don't
yeah.
inherently trust the universe has your back or is going to carry you or hold you. And so it's leaning into the holy plan and understanding that you are cared for. So that is my work.
Well, that's great work to be in. I feel like right now I'm definitely leaning into the holy plan.
I
Like,
love it. Good for you.
go. Let's go, holy plan. Also, your
I
hair
love
looks
that.
great, so that's an
Oh,
open door.
thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks. All right. Well, thanks
All
for
right, hon.
joining us.
Thanks for joining us, everyone. Find us on all of the channels,
Yes, Apple Pods,
Apple Pod,
Spotify.
Spotify,
Yeah, you
SoundCloud,
got it.
wherever you get your podcasts, and please leave a rating, ideally a 5, not to tell you what to
Yes.
do, but we ask for your
Yes.
help.
Please do. And we'll see you
And
next
thanks for
week.
listening, and we'll see you next time. All right.
Bye.
Bye.